poet expressed the ongoing conflict which is between man and nature. Man wants to confine the nature, man wants to gain his power and authority over nature, while nature is limitless. Nature cannot be confined within the four walls. We cannot put any limitation over nature. But mankind, he always wanted to exercise his authority over the nature and wanted to confine the nature within his limit. Now this conflict is well expressed through the medium of this poem, the trees. The poet represents the nature through the medium of trees. Now let's see the theme of this poem. The poet wants to give the message that the presence of few plants or trees inside human habitations cannot be compared to the real nature. Mankind or human beings, what they have did, they have brought trees and plants inside their dwellings, inside their habitations, thinking that they can keep or confine the nature within their limits. It may be for any purpose, for decoration, for beautification of their habitation. But what they have thought, that the presence of few plants or trees within their human habitation is the nature. That means they have gained their power, they have gained their authority over the nature. But the poet says that it is not the real nature. Having some plants or trees within our boundaries, within our dwellings, it doesn't mean that we have confined the nature and we have the whole nature within our dwellings. The poet says that the real nature is outside, in the forest that we have destroyed. The poet says that where is the real nature? We can see the glimpse of the real nature in the forest, in the natural habitat, where there are plants, trees, grasses. So all these elements of nature is found in the forest. So we can get the glimpse of the real nature in the forest, in its natural habitation. Not that we have put some plants and trees inside our house and we can think that this is all the nature and we have put them in the walls, inside the houses, and we can enjoy the nature in our dwellings and in our habitations. No, the real nature is outside the forest, which unfortunately have been destroyed by human beings. So this is a very beautiful poem that expresses the reality of the nature and the conflict of man and nature, conflict between man and nature. Let's read the stanza number 1. The trees inside are moving out into the forest that was empty all these days, where no birds could sit, no insect hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. Now this is a very wonderful explanation of forest or trees which are confined within the four walls of a room or a house. The poet is speaking about the confinement of trees and plants within the houses of human habitation or houses. So poet says that the trees or the plants that the human have kept inside the houses, they long to get out into the forest that is the natural habitat of them. Now, what the human beings have done, they have taken the plants, they have taken the trees, and they would plant them within their houses for the purpose of decoration and beautification. Thus, the human beings, they try to bring nature within the four walls of the house. They try to confine the nature within the house, within the boundaries of his house, while the nature is trying to get back to its natural habitat, to its natural environment. We used to keep plants and trees inside the houses. Some will keep the plants nearby the window. And what would happen? These plants or trees, they would try to break those windows and break those wall and try to get out. Now that is a good symbolism that the plant or the trees, they wanted to go out of their confinement, or they want to go out of their limited area. Now therefore, the poet says that the plants or the trees inside the room, inside the confinement, inside the limited area, they want to move outside. But the point is that where they want to go, they want to go to their natural habitat. That's the forest. Now, the poet go to the other side, that we human beings have brought the nature within the confinement, and now what about those forests? They are empty all these days. As you know that deforestation is a process of cutting down the trees, clearing up the forest. Now what happened to them? No more trees in the forest. And when no trees, the birds could not sit there. The birds could not live there. And no trees, no insect can hide there because it is all cleared. And if there is no tree, if there are no trees, they don't have the shadow, because when the sun comes up, due to the huge trees, it forms the shadows. So the sun burns its feet in shadow. That means in the absence of the trees, there is no shadow formed, or no formation of shadow can be made or created without trees. So the forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. Now moving to the another aspect of this poem, the poet is expressing his imagination that one day The forest, which is confined within the walls, will again go back to its natural origin, natural habitat, and again the trees will go back to its natural habitat of forest. The trees, plants which we have put in confinement, one day it will go back to its natural habitat, that is forest. Let us move to the stanza number 2. Let me read out this for you. All night the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves strain towards the glass. Small twigs, stiff with exertion. Long, cramped boughs shuffling under the roof like newly discharged patients, half dazed, moving to the clinic doors. Now, in this second stanza, the poet is describing about the nature represented through the medium of plants and trees confined within a house. And what happens to the trees or the plants or the climbers that we have put inside our house or inside human habitation? How they behave like, and what are the consequences that the trees, plants or climbers face when they are put in a limited space within a restricted place, and how they behave. The poet says that the trees, the plants, the climbers, their roots work all night in order to disengage themselves from that restricted area. You might have seen this in the flower vase. We have seen it in the vessel in which we put plants. Sometimes its roots break that vessel and comes out. So that's the picture that the writer or the composer of this poem brings out by disengaging themselves or gripping off from the cracks in the veranda floor. So the plant, the climber or the tree which is kept in the veranda floor, it tries to disengage itself from that floor. That means it is trying to get out of that place. It is trying to release itself from that place as if it wants to go back to its natural habitat or forest. Now, the leaves of that climber or plant, it strains towards the glass. Sometimes we will put some plants nearby the window, and it happens, it will strain towards the glass window as if it wanted to reach out, as if it wanted to break that window panel and go out. So it strained towards the glass. Small twigs, stiff with exertion. Now you see that small twigs of that climber or that plant, it feels stiff and rigid by exertion, and long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof, and long boughs of that tree or plant, they are shuffling under the roof. they are shuffling so that they may come out of that roof, so that they may come out of that limited place. Now, the movement of balls or shuffling movement of balls is personified with the newly discharged patients. You could have seen it as the patient is discharged from the hospital. Their movement is, half dazed. They cannot move properly. They will be trembling to move, and they just move to and fro in order to reach the door of that hospital or clinic. In that same way, the shuffling movement of balls are compared to newly discharged patient without strength, without any stamina in them. They are just shuffling here and there, trembling and just trembling, and they are trying to find out the doors. That means they don't want to live in that limited area. Now this is what happens to the plants, trees, climbers, which we put inside the house, thinking that we have confined the nature within the four walls of our house, and it's the real nature. But the poet says that no, it is not the real nature. And if you want to see the real nature, it's in the real habitat, or it's in the forest. In stanza number 3, the poet goes on telling about the nature, which is represented by trees, plants, climbers, or creepers. Let me read out the third stanza. I sat inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters in which I scarcely mentioned the departure of forest from the house. The night is fresh, the whole moon shines in a sky still open. The smell of leaves and lichen still reaches like a voice into the rooms. Now in this stanza we can get a glimpse of poetess who is sitting inside, and the doors of her room is open to the veranda, and she's writing long letters. And in those letters she did not mention about the departure of forest from the house. In stanza number 2, we have seen how the plants, trees, creepers, or climbers inside the house are struggling to go out of the house, are struggling to go into the natural habitat that is forest. Here, in these letters, she is not mentioning about the departure of forest or departure of those trees from the house. And when she looked outside, the night seems to be fresh, and the sky is clear, the moon is visible. She can see the clear sky, she can see the brilliance of the moon which shines in the clear sky. Simultaneously, she smells the leaves and the lichens. That seems to be calling the poet as if they wanted to get out of the four walls of the rooms. That means the smell, the fragrance of lichen and leaves, they seem to be calling. Why? because they want to go outside of their confinement. They want to go outside of their artificial habitat to the natural habitat. Let's see stanza number 4. We will read. My head is full of whispers, which tomorrow will be silent. Listen, the glass is breaking. The trees are stumbling forward into the night. Winds rush to meet them. The moon is broken like a mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak. Now in this stanza number 4, the poet says that she hears the sound made by trees as she is sitting in the veranda and writing long letters, and she will not mention about the departure of the tree in those letters. Simultaneously, she can hear the sound which is produced by trees, and she expects that this sound would be silent in the next day. That means the trees would perhaps move out from its confinement to the natural habitat. Therefore, she would be not able to listen or hear that sound which is now made by the trees. Then she calls the reader to listen the breaking sound of glass. Now this breaking sound of glass is the breaking sound of glass of a window. We have glass in the window. Now the trees or the climbers or the plants which are kept nearby the window, it is breaking the window glass as if it wants to go out. The trees are stumbling forward into the night. Now the movement of the tree is trembling. The movement of the tree is stumbling. That means it is going out from its confinement with trembling and stumbling. And where does it go? It goes into the night. That means during the night time, it wants to escape from the confinement zone, from the confinement area to the natural habitat of forest. And the author or the writer imagine the moving wind outside to welcome the trees, plants, flowers, creepers as they are trying to get out of the four walls. The wind that is rushing outside seems to welcome, seems to come and meet them, to receive them. And the author or the writer or the composer gives us a picture of the moon, the image of the moon, which is visible through the branches of tallest oak tree. Now sometimes when we behold the moon from the branches of the tree, how does it look? It looks broken into fragments. The branches of the trees comes between the image of the moon, and thus it seems that it has been broken into many pieces. In that same manner, the author, the writer, visualized the moon as a mirror which is broken into fragments and pieces when she behold that moon through the branches of tallest oak tree. So thus the poet realizes the fact that nature is returning to its natural and original habitat. Nature cannot be confined within the four walls. Nature, the real nature, is in the forest.